Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest 8-second gaming, and in today's video we are going to be talking about why Hanzo is the absolutely most busted Overwatch DPS character right now. But if you guys are looking to take your Overwatch skill to the next level, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there we have top level coaches creating the best, most highly informative guides to make you the best player you could possibly be. We have aim guides, positioning guides, hero guides, and a bunch of other things, so click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and start to improve today. Now jumping into things, we are actually going to be talking about every single sniper right now, because one of, if not the biggest change happening right now in Season 5 is the way that snipers interact with each other. We're talking Widowmaker, Hanzo, Cassidy, Ashe, and maybe a little bit of Sojourn. And this all does culminate into why Hanzo is absolutely busted right now, even though he was nerfed in the latest patch. And although it may sound crazy, we assure you this pick is now an exception to the rule that Blizzard developers tried to implement. But now let's move into what the Widow changes actually mean. So a little bit of a tiny rundown on the patch notes. No more one-shot for Widowmaker at long ranges, meaning on maps such as Ilios Ruins, she can no longer sit on the high ground above Mega and one-shot beyond the point. Doesn't seem that significant. Well, it's actually a lot bigger of a change than it seems. She can still hit one shots as long as they're in that sweet spot range, although much smaller, but only at 100% charge, since the damage fall off still exists, where otherwise she could jump shot behind a wall and swiftly peek out to find a pick onto her target with her gun less charged up. She now can't do that nearly as well, leaving her target significantly more time to react as her gun charges up. These Widowmaker changes completely change how she must be played, with a significant more aggressive playstyle, leaving her open to being assassinated by flankers or simply sprinted or dove on by the enemy tank. And once her grapple cooldown is forced, it's going to look pretty bleak for her. Next up we got the Cassidy changes, and as you can imagine, this completely changes the DPS meta. The other changes to snipers include Cassidy's grenade now being less of a duel winner and more of a mobility denying zoning ability, and another change we will get into in a little bit. Cassidy should now be played as a much more team-oriented pick, whereas before he could go off on his own and find plays on a sharp off angle. Now staying anchored to your team, meaning being stuck to their side, is more important than ever. But we already have made a video going more in depth on him, so you should definitely check that out. But now let's talk about two snipers who are affected yet not buffed nor nerfed. So for that, we gotta start off with Ashe. And Ashe, although untouched, is completely changed by the nerf and buff to those other heroes. She actually stands an amazing chance against Widowmaker, making her less counterable, and is an asset to countering Cassidy as she is extremely potent against him already. She pretty much fully denies the value he otherwise seeks to obtain. And since Cassidy's usual playstyle of off-angling was much stronger against Ashe, now that he is forced to stay with his team, she should be able to keep him in check much easier. This means one simple thing: Ashe is dominant right now. She is amazing with Cassidy and works into Hanzo, although we will get to him in a little bit, as he is her main threat right now. However, what about Sojourn? Now Sojourn is countered by Ashe pretty hard. When both sticking to regular playstyles and not pulling anything outside the box, she is denied significant value just like Cassidy would otherwise look to achieve. However, again, although untouched, Sojourn is stronger thanks to the Widow nerf. Sojourn stands out from other snipers, and while looking from an inside perspective, it's kinda like rock, paper, scissors. This is how tank matchups have been for a while, but if you look at it, Sojourn performs fairly poorly into Ashe, has great one-shot potential against Cassidy or Widowmaker, but the unique part about Sojourn is her ability to fight Hanzo. She can keep distance on her really well, and thanks to her odd hitbox, she can force a Hanzo's leap considerably early, as she can manipulate her head hitbox from a normal head height to pretty much floor once she slides, taking away one of Hanzo's best shots of winning a duel. Additionally, you have two abilities to force Hanzo's leap: the threat of your railgun, which you will obtain at any time and could potentially have at the start of the duel, or your E, which makes you use at the peak of your jump after sliding. Either way, she is an amazing option as a DPS right now, but now let's talk about Hanzo, as he is the main topic of this video. And to start off with, we have to go over the Hanzo changes. So Hanzo, his nerfs are as follows. His sonar now has an impact sound for enemies, and it has a visual effect. Other more important nerfs is that his maximum damage was reduced from 125 to 120. What this means for Hanzo is that he can no longer one-shot those 250 health targets. We're talking Reaper and Mei. So what's the big deal? We're talking about how broken this has made him be, but what could the issue possibly be? Maybe a bug? Well, no, these are plain nerfs that technically make him slightly weaker. But the change for Widowmaker is what makes all the difference. Hanzo is now the only hero in the game that can one-shot from any distance on his own. I mean, sure, technically Mei can one-shot a Tracer from across the map, but you get what we mean. Widowmaker is now terrible in comparison to Hanzo. His only drawback is that he is a projectile based, and learning him can feel awful as he has a very odd arc and relatively slow arrow speed. But we still want to let you know that doesn't matter at all. But going over the sonar arrow change now, on paper it should make enemies much more aware of where his sonar arrow is, right? Well, no, not at all actually. Sure, if you are using his sonar arrow incorrectly, enemies will be able to see it extremely easily, but sonar arrow is not meant to be used on walls directly where enemies can see it. When using sonar arrow, you want to make sure you find enemies at the absolute maximum range of it. The visual effect is only played about 1.5 meters off of where the arrow lands, which means when used correctly, this doesn't actually help the enemy whatsoever. But what about the sound effect? Enemies can hear it, so it doesn't matter, right? Well, take a look at this.
You can't hide.
Yep, that's all you get. You get a slight noise at the very start of the sonar arrow, and nothing after. Same thing for the visual effect, both are very subtle. Just imagine what it's like when 20 voice lines and explosions are going off all at the same time. Bullets are flying everywhere. There's just no way that you're going to hear that, right? So you get the point. Sonar arrow was very annoying since you could never really tell if it was exposing you, and that really hasn't changed. And as for the damage nerf, it is just a small nerf, but it does impact him a little bit. Let's say the entire enemy team is coming back from spawn as you just won a fight, or you just lost a fight and you're coming back from spawn and absolutely no one is shooting at each other. You see Mei or Reaper with their team, you get a full shot charged off at their head and they don't die. But that's not what most fights are like, right? It impacts those situations almost exclusively. Mei and Reaper are very close range heroes. Even if you were to be put in a situation where you're the only one who can damage them, you can simply melee them instead of shooting them in the head. And in 99% of circumstances, they will be in the middle of the fight taking even 5 to 20 damage from absolutely anyone else on the map, meaning your headshot will kill them regardless. So now let's move into why Hanzo is so strong. And it's basically because Hanzo counters everyone. They tried to stop him from affecting Mei and Reaper as harshly, but he still demolishes them as long as their big head hitboxes match unfairly to Hanzo's big arrow hitbox. But he still is literally at minimum a soft counter to absolutely everyone. If you can help ease a kill on an enemy, you in some way soft counter them, even if it's just a Mercy in Valkyrie. She is technically a soft counter to Widow, as the likelihood she can kill the Widow if the opportunity is granted is pretty high. Same thing for Hanzo. His duel potential is amazing. In fact, he is one of, if not the only DPS that has a good chance at beating Torb in Overload, as well as even some tanks. So if Hanzo's so great, how do you deal with him? Well, Hanzo can kill Pharah and Genji with relative ease, even though they technically are meant to counter him. It seems quite unfair, right? So what is the best solution to Hanzo? Well, I'll be completely honest, there isn't actually a lot. Countering Hanzo means to output more consistent damage than him. If Hanzo wishes to output consistent damage, he must either flank and be extremely aggressive or focus down the enemy tank. Both are not great options for damage output in general. You can't just focus down the Hanzo, even as Monkey or Diva, as his short double jump is already like a mini escape on top of his overloaded kits of self-utility. So if you want to counter him, Cassidy won't directly do so, but you will almost definitely do more consistent damage to important heroes than him, as Hanzo is just going to spam and not look for random picks, but actually calculated one-shot headshots. But now let's move into the kind of playstyle that you're going to want to have on him. So how you're going to actually play Hanzo isn't really any different than before. The only difference is now that Widow, who could perform very well into him, can't one-shot him at long distances, which means a mindful Hanzo will play at those longer ranges, giving him the edge. Just like how Ashe will now be significantly stronger pick simply due to the fact that Widow can't headshot her and kill her instantly at ranges she would previously prefer to play against her in, and Widow allowing for more reaction time against both of them to charge up one shot anyways, both will have an extremely easy time taking her out. To understand how to play Hanzo, first understand why this change doesn't also suddenly make Ashe godlike carry pick. Although she is extremely potent and made stronger by the Widow nerf, Ashe is an extremely situational sniper who can control space extremely well, deny dive attempts, has great AoE to disrupt brawls and drain resources. She is overall an amazing pick for setting up angles, but she can't create her own opportunities the same way that Hanzo does. The reason Hanzo is so strong is his abilities to go anywhere on the map he likes, at pretty much any time. I mean, not literally, but still, flanking on Hanzo is never out of the question. You have great mobility and duel potential, and most of the time remain undetected even after firing several shots, as it was from an undisclosed location. His off-angling is deadly, and playing him from safety of his team isn't out of the question either. With such a diverse pick, it isn't really hard to see why he will be absolutely broken this season. Now maybe you might be thinking, are there any maps that he won't work well on? Well, surprisingly enough, he works everywhere. There generally isn't any bad map where Hanzo doesn't work. Sure, there are some that are better or worse for him. For example, Busan Shrine is a bit worse since it doesn't have many high grounds to play on, but it's a very large and open map, so he will certainly still find a lot of value there. Some strong maps for him do include King's Row, as he can traverse the high ground for each point of this map very well for a hero with his kill potential, or Junkertown for the same reason and the off-angling opportunities it provides. But let me know what you guys think about Hanzo in the comments down below, and if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest greatest Overwatch tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thanks all for watching. Once again, I've been taking gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. But also, if you guys are going to be looking to take your Overwatch skill to the next level, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there we have top level coaches, including myself, creating the best, most highly informative guides to make you the best player you can possibly be. No matter what you struggle with, we have the solution for you. So click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and start to improve today.